Janol, thank you so much for speaking to us on what is a very difficult week for America. Before we get to the protests and before we get to what it all means, can you just first talk to me about how you felt the first time you watched that video of George Floyd pinned to the ground with the officer's knee in his neck?
Uh, it was it was hurtful, painful. Um, every time I see another black man, be dehumanized, humiliated, it's just hurtful. It's like I can feel the pain, and it was just horrible to look at. So it was just combined anger of being hurt uh, for the brother, but obviously just anger. Looking at this person that's subhuman, with that much evil in his heart to commit murder. Not having any respect, for George as a man, let alone as a human with a soul. So it was very painful to watch.
We know that there's been instances like this since the beginning of time. However, nowadays there's a lot more conversation around when it feels like we're seeing more of this. Are we actually, or are we just more exposed to it? Is it because everyone's on social media and got a camera in their pocket? But we do know that police killings in the United States across the board, regardless of ethnicity, have risen since 2014. So when it feels like we're seeing more cases like this, um, are we actually, or like I say, is it just because there's more exposure to it?
I think it's a combination of both, Josh. You know, it's been consistent, throughout what centuries and decades. I think things are a lot more bolder with Donald Trump in office. A lot of racists and those that hate Black people and other minorities. They feel more emboldened to do those types of acts. He committed murder in public with witnesses, watching him and filming him. Um, and a lot of that goes into the type of leadership that we have in this country with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he spoke in front of the NYPD and basically endorsed, uh, brutalizing suspects and people that they would apprehend. He loved it and he applauded. So that racist subhuman that murdered George Floyd, he felt empowered. So it's definitely picked up as far as you know racist being more just cocky about doing things in public because they feel that they're protected. And it's not just police. You do have a lot of good police out there. So it's not about, okay, well, it was a policeman. No, it's he was a racist that has hatred towards Black people. Same thing with Ahmaud Arbery. They weren't police. Uh, they were pretty much just racist white men that felt empowered to chase down another Black man as if he was an animal. So it's just white systemic racism and supremacy that we have to fight. We have to figure out solutions on how do we fight it as a collective. And I was glad to hear that Jed say that protests were happening in London, people around the world. It's time for us to really rise up together and figure out a strong solution on how to tackle it effectively. And um, yeah, we just have to figure it out.
Talking about the systemic racism there was obviously a big delay between the incident and the arrest of the officer involved. The other three officers present still haven't been arrested. With the Ahmaud Arbery case, it was months before there was an arrest made. So how does systemic racism come to play in this when it comes to this, massive time gap between the incident and the arrest?
Well, it's America was founded on, you know, racism and slavery and thievery. And it's not me being slanderous. It's just the truth. Black people built this country along with the Chinese and Indians, and America got a lot of free labor out of Black people for centuries. That's why it's the most powerful country in the world. So it's ingrained in government, and it is what it is. The delays were caused, because it's like, well, if no one's going to say anything, we'll just put it under the rug. But because of the vigilance of Ahmaud Arbery's family, the community, and people pressing the issues, finally, those murderers were sought out, and now in the phase of being brought to justice. And the same thing with this cop. If it wasn't for the protest and um, the uprisings, he probably still would be free. So it's the people that are actually pressing the point that's making the difference, not the government or officials doing the right things on their own.
We've seen incidents like this happen time and time again, and we've seen protests like this time and time again. Do you think that this time is going to be any different? Do you think that this will be a catalyst for change?
Um, I would hope so. I think that with a lot of the uprisings, everyone is wanting to, you know, go back to, well, what would MLK do? You know, think about Martin Luther King. Think about the peaceful protests. And Martin Luther King was a revolutionary. All his speeches weren't about walking around and holding hands and passing flowers and being a pacifist. Martin Luther King was a strategist. He practiced the art of war. He practiced it through nonviolence, but he was the man that along with um, Slick, they shut down the Birmingham Transit Authority, the bus systems. They made them go bankrupt. I mean, basically, with those boycotts. So there was a lot of effective strategies that Martin Luther King put in place to change the system. So I think basically fast forwarding to now, yeah, the riots scared a lot of people. So there was a concern that, hey, you know what? Number one, Black people are not going to just sit back and allow for racists to kill us, or to allow this white uh, supremacy that's built in the system to further oppress us and to kill us. We're going to fight back. And it's not going to be within the confines that, hey, well, you guys, it's okay to protest, and you can go ahead and march during these hours, but make sure you're done at 9 o'clock and you go home. It's not, that's not going to happen anymore. So I think that there's a fear that there's going to be a lot of uprisings, and a lot of people are not going to sit back and take peaceful routes anymore. On the positive and civil side, yeah, it's going to motivate a lot of Black people to step up and vote, to unite and make change through practical ways, through voting Donald Trump out of out of the presidency, uh, voting other state representatives like Mitch McConnell, and those racists that's been embedded in the system for decades. So that's going to happen too. But at the same time, in Brunswick, Georgia, um, you had peaceful protests, but you also had militant organizations going into Brunswick, Georgia, which is the city where Ahmaud Arbery was murdered. With assault rifles and guns. And from what I recalled, when Osama bin Laden, um, when he masterminded 9/11, and he caused all those people to die, the United States didn't go into Pakistan, with candles and picket signs. They went in the middle of the night and they took Osama out. So don't expect Black people to always turn the other cheek and saying we shall overcome. I think people are getting pissed, and so there should be some concern.
We're seeing the relationship between Show Racism, the Red Card, and Supernatural continue this week with the new single Power by the Revolt and Hostile. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Supernatural Inc., which is a multimedia platform, global multimedia platform that deals with film, music, technology, and fashion. Uh, we've partnered with Show Racism, the Red Card, on a phenomenal project called the Red Card Music Project Volume 1. So we released a single towards the end of last year called the Red Card that addresses racism on a global scale. So to I would say early this week, I don't want to give an exact date, but early this week, um, the collaboration between Show Racism, the Red Card, and Supernatural Inc., we're releasing the follow-up single, which is called Power, which is by The Revolt, featuring hip-hop artist Hostile, based out of New York City. And it addresses a lot of what's happening now with people tired of just dealing with systemic racism and being oppressed from a global standpoint. It addresses what we need to do, how we need to rise as a people together on a global scale. And again, when it comes down to it, yeah, Black people are feeling it, but the only way that we can really solve this is if we all come together. Black, red, white, Chinese, brown. We got to come together. We got to understand that we're all human and we have to come together. So Power is a culmination of that. If you listen to the song, you watch the video, it's phenomenal. So make sure you support it and check it out. Power.
Janol Holmes, thank you very much for joining us. I just wished it was under better circumstances, but thank you for your time.